And we should use healthcare stuff for healthcare stuff. And in case anyone forgot, when you went through your licensing program, the definition of insurance is a large number of people coming together to pay a very small premium to protect against an unforeseen catastrophic loss. That's the basic definition of insurance. And unfortunately, over time, it's become very muddied. And people think of healthcare and insurance as the same thing, when very clearly they are not. We need the insurance to protect us against the catastrophic loss. We need the healthcare products to provide a quality healthcare experience. And I think particularly in the small group market, it is very hard to separate the two. So I'm going to go to Rachel next, actually. So what do you think is the #1 challenge, thing that you could put on your wish list that we're missing the most for smaller employers?
Alternative options. I mean, when I am looking at a group and I meet with the employer, 9 out of 10 times they're on a fully insured plan. And I get it, they're smaller. But sometimes it is saying, hey, here's a level funded program. I really believe in the crawl, walk, run approach. Sometimes these employers don't know what they don't know. They're focused on their job. We're supposed to know insurance, and it's our job to bring solutions to the table. And you're right, maybe it is an HRA. It's showing them there's other things out there we can do to put your employer plan together. And slowly, one thing we run into Washington is we don't have a lot of DPCs in Washington. And that's something Nancy and I have talked a lot about. But alternative ways to enhance these plans, I think is helpful. And just making sure we're doing our job to bring those solutions to the table. I look forward to the day that I can have a group that's self-funded and I can put DPC in place and we can start having a lot more of that in our state. But in the meantime, yeah, it is more of a crawl, walk, run approach for the smaller groups, and I really wish that we had more options.
And we're going to go to Dennis next. I would say the other thing, in particular in small group, we'll talk about compensation when we get to, in about 10 minutes, but if we're compensated properly, we can spend more time educating them on how to use things that are not insurance that will benefit them more in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's critical that we educate ourselves, right? Because I think Kevin Trophy's good about saying sales is just a transfer of confidence, right? When you're confident in your approach, it's much easier to ask, right, to get paid properly for what you bring to the table. So, you know, I've seen there's tools that do exist that I think we just don't fully understand them, right? Bill Hepshire and I have been friends since I've been in Florida 10 years. It took me like 5 years to figure out what the frick he even does. So RX Manage can go in with any employer, right? Now, some employers it will make a difference. Some employers it's just a good tool, but it's not expensive. It's something easy to do, but we have to understand it and have to be able to have that conversation with employers. And I tell all of the vendors all the time, listen, I get a really short window with employers. Like, I'm not going to spend it going deep in the weeds on how to make sausage because they don't care. They're never going to. So something like that. I think understanding a little bit about DPC and how the model works, it helped me with one of my really good friends. He owns an addiction recovery clinic in Central City, Kentucky. So I know I've got buddies here from Kentucky that understand how important that organization is to Kentucky. And it was irresponsible when I knew we had essentially an on-site clinic to have them in a traditional plan. I'm like, all your doctor's visits are running through an insurance plan when they don't have to. That group has got like 22 people on the plan, and we've had it for 4 years. It's run extremely well. And so it's simple, right? But we have an active approach to the game, and it can work in a lot of places, but being educated enough to understand where those tools fit and where they don't. The rest of his plan is pretty traditional. We did put it with a captive, and not all captives are equal, right? So again, education, there's a big difference between, I know Berkeley's here, I haven't seen Roundstone here, but I'm a fan of, I've had clients with all of them, including Pareto, right? So there's groups that they will take. In Florida, we can go down to 25 lives on the plan, and I've had Roundstone that fund. So there's a lot of ways that we can help, but it's understanding our market, right? The education piece that we developed was purely because I had a school that said, you gotta help me figure out how to keep teachers from walking off the job. That's the only reason I'm involved in emotional vaccines, was just trying to figure out how do we keep teachers here, because they're the ones that are in charge of these clowns at the schools every day. And I don't know about any of you, I'm not trying to go into a 7th grade class and figure out how to deal with those kids, right? So we need our teachers, they're critical. And so that's why emotional vaccines was developed for that in the Sheriff's Department in Pasco County. So that's where it all started. It was educating them on things that we can do that are simple. That's a video series that can be dropped in anywhere. Again, if you're self-funded, it'll have a bigger impact on your claims fund, but those programs can be dropped into any company.
But don't you think, Dennis, that honestly that those programs sometimes can actually have a bigger impact in a smaller company because they don't have the tools or the knowledge or the resources. And so if we can do something like that that's a very low entry point and make a difference in the culture and raise up how things are going, it's going to impact the claims, whether it's on a fully insured or not. They may not see it that way, but if we have better presenteeism, if we have better attitudes, people's health goes along correspondingly.
You show them any ounce of attention at a small employer, they appreciate it because they're getting 0 generally.
Harlan?
So it's interesting that you said 9 out of 10 are coming off of fully insured. When we talk to 9 out of 10, they're coming off of uninsured. So they have nothing, because we're talking once again to those groups of really under 25. And there's various reasons. Sometimes they've kind of grown to a point where they feel like they need something now. Sometimes they just haven't had anything because way back years ago they had, but because of rising prices they don't have it anymore. But the dynamic stays the same. And there are times, of course, that even medical cost sharing is too expensive for them to add in. So we've got very creative and direct partnerships with direct primary care and urgent care facilities, and even virtual, to where we'll offer programs. Right now, our most successful one is $75 a month for the entire family to have in-person and virtual access to DPC and urgent care. $75 for the whole family. Can you imagine that's popular? Right? Then we took another step, and my wife didn't like it, I did anyway. And that is, we made it so people could actually sign up on their own. So she developed actually, a landing page, much against her wishes, where people could literally go out from an ad they saw or a QR code they shot and sign up for this program, or take the next step up to include prescription drug coverage for $100 a month for their whole family, or they could also sign up for the bundle with medical cost sharing. It worked. It worked. My thought was, people just don't want to talk to us. There is a generation that don't want to talk to us. And of course, what helped us here is we can go down to groups, are you ready? Of 1. We can write groups of 1. There are not the same limitations on medical cost sharing as there are on other things. Because we can go down to groups of 1, we can do very innovative things that other people can't. Whenever I first considered doing these other type of alternative funded things, I was kicking and screaming because, dadgummit, now I gotta do compliance. I don't like compliance. I don't have to do compliance when I'm not doing a compliant plan. It's not insurance. And I've been in insurance a long time, right? I've been in insurance for years and years, and the fact that I don't have to use insurance now, I like it. I like it a lot. But you know, it didn't fit for everybody. So I still had employers that needed the insurance piece, that needed actually to be fully insured in cases, because they had employees that had issues, and it wasn't going to work. We could not even think about a captive. We couldn't think about even one of the BUCA level funded. It was higher than their fully insured. So it wasn't going to work for them either. But it's always, of course, the CEO's wife. But that's neither here nor there, right? Can everyone agree it's always the CEO's wife right now? or the CEO's husband if it's the other direction. It's always that way. But that has been the battle that we fight. And you know, I'm gonna call him out back there, but my buddy Terry Shutt brought a group to us from out of Illinois. Why did they not have insurance? Because of the ACA drove the cost up so much. And this guy understands. You'll never find an employer that was more passionate about bringing something to his people. And Terry had searched for years to find